The Rock Creek Augmentation Project is located near the southwest corner of Nebraska, a little less than 20 miles from the intersection of the three states of Colorado, Kansas, and Nebraska. The project is within the Republican River Basin, a watershed that drains almost 25,000 square miles to its confluence with the Smoky Hill River in northeastern Kansas, forming the Kansas River. These flows eventually drain into the Missouri River. The project is owned by and located within the boundaries of the Upper Republican Natural Resources District. The district is one of 4 natural resource districts located within the Republican River Basin in Nebraska. Rock Creek itself is a small, baseflow-dominated stream, roughly 10 miles in length, which drains into the Republican River near Parks, Nebraska. The major components of the Rock Creek Augmentation Project are in the upper portion of the Rock Creek subbasin. In this video, we'll take a virtual tour of the project, along with a portion of the Rock Creek and Republican River basins. We'll start at the upper end of the project and work our way downstream. This virtual tour uses imagery from a variety of sources, including Google Earth, video from aerial flyovers, and photos and video taken from the ground level. We'll begin this short flyover starting at project headquarters. Here, equipment and materials used to maintain the project infrastructure are stored. The Rock Creek Augmentation Project is designed to add wet water to the Republican River Basin by reducing the consumptive use of water used to irrigate crops and pumping water directly into Rock Creek. As part of the project, about 3,260 certified irrigated acres within the Upper Republican Natural Resources District were retired, along with 23 irrigation wells that used to deliver water to those acres. Now, 10 augmentation wells pump groundwater into a pipeline and deliver that water directly to the upper portions of Rock Creek. The pipeline spans approximately 7 miles and is up to 24 inches in diameter. 1,920 acres of additional lands adjacent to the project were purchased by the district in April of 2013 to assist with management efforts. These additional lands are not part of the augmentation plan as submitted to the RRCA. Starting at the upper end of the pipeline, the 10 augmentation wells pump groundwater into the pipe system, which moves the water downstream towards the headwaters of Rock Creek. Careful monitoring of pumping rates is maintained by district staff using a real-time supervisory control and data acquisition, or SCADA system. The buried pipeline stretches approximately 7 miles in Dundee County, connecting the augmentation wells and appurtenances. The pipeline terminates near a small embankment in the Rock Creek channel. The main discharge point is just downstream of this embankment. Here, water flows out of the pipe and then through an energy dissipator, a structure designed to reduce erosion as the water enters the creek channel. The project has a pumping capacity of approximately 20,000 acre-feet per year, or about 27 cubic feet per second at a constant rate of pumping. Within the augmentation plan proposed by Nebraska, pumping rates would vary depending on the type of operations needed for a given year. In years in which augmentation pumping is needed to ensure compliance with the Republican River Compact, referred to as compact operation years, pumping could range from 0 to just over 20,000 acre-feet per year, as needed for compact compliance. In other years, known as maintenance operation years, smaller pumping rates of about 300 acre-feet per year would be sufficient to ensure that no new net depletions exist. In this video footage, we move downstream from the pipe outlet into a valley shaped over time by the flows of Rock Creek. This is part of about a 1-mile stretch between the discharge point and the entrance to the Rock Creek Fish Hatchery to the south. As the footage shows, the new water in the creek follows the same stream channels that carry flows during runoff events on Rock Creek, such as heavy rainfall from thunderstorms or snowmelt. The top of a bluff along the valley's eastern edge provides an excellent vantage point from which to see the clear impact from the augmentation pumping on the flows in the creek, as well as highlighting the unique landscape of this part of western Nebraska. From this spot, it's just a short distance to the entrance to the Rock Creek Fish Hatchery. In this last stretch before the hatchery, the creek passes through minor road crossings and into a small pond on the north side of the hatchery. Before moving downstream, however, we can take a last look at this upper portion of the basin and the augmentation water as it works its way down the valley southward. As the camera pans from south to north, the augmentation pipe outlet is obscured by the bluff to the north, but would be a little less than a mile north from the location of this video. Next, we'll move to the hatchery. Managed by the Nebraska Game and Parks Commission, the Rock Creek Fish Hatchery is made up of a series of ponds, artesian supply wells, and other structures that stretch from the north or the left side of the screen to the south or the right side. The Rock Creek Channel and the augmentation water bypass the hatchery facilities, with the channel primarily on its east side. Now, with the construction of the augmentation pipeline, a portion of augmentation water could also go downstream through the hatchery, joining back with the main Rock Creek Channel at the lower end of the hatchery. This is accomplished via a mile-long pipeline, highlighted in green, that stretches from the end of the larger 24-inch main line through a smaller pipe. Just a mile downstream from the hatchery is Rock Creek Lake, a small, spring-fed reservoir which is about a mile long from north to south and covers a surface area of a little less than 50 acres. Augmentation flows pass through the small reservoir and are discharged through an outlet structure on the south side of the lake at the dam embankment. After leaving Rock Creek Lake, the creek continues southwards, flowing about 4 miles before reaching the edge of Parks, Nebraska. This reach, like much of the basin, is sparsely populated, save for a small ranch operation. Now, as we near the outlet of the Rock Creek subbasin, the creek enters the boundaries of the small community of Parks, Nebraska, where flow is gauged at a station maintained by the U.S. Geological Survey. On the date of this video, May 31st, 2013, the average daily flow at the gauge was 32 cubic feet per second. This compares with an augmentation pipe discharge of about 26 cubic feet per second on the same day, and suggests minimal, if any, losses of augmentation water. The addition of the augmentation water is easily visible in the hydrologic record from the Park stream gauge, as shown in this USGS graph. The augmentation pumping, which ramped up in February of 2013, quickly resulted in higher flows downstream at the Park's gauge, and indicates little, if any, loss of augmentation flow. While just a small, unincorporated community, Parks represents an important geographic location in the Republican River Basin. Not only is the Parks gauge found here, where measurements are made for Rock Creek subbasin contributions toward compact compliance, but just a short half-mile to the south of Parks is the actual confluence between the Rock Creek and the Republican River itself. This confluence marks where Rock Creek, meandering from the north to the south, meets with the Republican River, flowing up from the south and west. The combined flows move eastward from here, with the total contributions from the Rock Creek subbasin and any flow from the upstream drainage area. The confluence is located about 8 miles south of the discharge point for the augmentation pipeline. It's also roughly halfway between where upstream the Republican River begins, at the confluence of the North Fork and Rickery Rivers near Hagler, Nebraska, and downstream at Benkelman, Nebraska, where the South Fork empties into the Republican River. Before moving downstream on the Republican River, we'll examine the river just upstream of the confluence with Rock Creek, about 1½ miles west-southwest of Parks. Photos were taken from the bridge just north of Highway 34 on the same day that the videos were taken at the Augmentation pipe outlet and at the USGS gauge for Rock Creek at Parks. May 31st, 2013. While the flow at this particular location on the Republican River is not gauged, the photos do show a flowing channel. Now, moving back to the confluence with Rock Creek, we can take a look at the combined flow just downstream of the confluence, viewing the Republican River from the bridge just southeast of Parks. This location provides a view of the Republican River with the supplemental flows provided by the Rock Creek Augmentation project. The confluence is just within view near the central part of the horizon from this vantage point. Even though stream flow at this location is also not gauged, the increase in flow resulting from the augmented Rock Creek supplies is clearly evident in the video. This footage was also taken on the same day as the earlier videos that were taken at the Augmentation pipe outlet and at Parks Gauge. Turning downstream at the same bridge location, the Republican River continues eastward, flowing towards the next recording gauge on the Republican River located at Stratton, Nebraska, some 30 miles downstream. Before moving to Stratton, the next reach of the Republican River stretches from the confluence with Rock Creek to near Benkelman, Nebraska, a reach of approximately 12 river miles. At the end of this reach is another important confluence with the main Republican River flowing from the west, represented here in green, and the South Fork Channel stretching from the southwest to northeast, shown here in red. First, we can take a look at the South Fork gauge to see the conditions as this tributary of the Republican River enters from Kansas, with the state line represented here in yellow. At this location, from the bridge at Highway 61, we are a little less than a mile downstream from the Kansas-Nebraska state line. Here, no flow enters from Kansas, as the stream has been entirely depleted. As one would expect, this downstream view shows a similar desolate channel. These photos were taken on May 31st, 2013, but unfortunately, this condition on the South Fork has become a common sight in recent years. For reference, we look to the USGS gauge information at this location. The record speaks for itself, showing regular periods with zero flows entering from Kansas. Turning from the dry South Fork, the Republican River passes under the same Highway 61, a little over 1.5 miles straight north. From this spot, just southwest of the community of Benkelman, the flows in Nebraska course eastward towards the confluence with the South Fork, which is a little over 2.5 miles downstream. From here, the Republican River turns more north and deeper into the state of Nebraska. The following aerial footage was taken on June 17th of 2013, just a couple of weeks later from the previous few videos and photographs, and shows the last segment of the Republican River before its confluence with the South Fork. This ungauged segment again shows significant water flows moving downstream. While the confluence itself is just outside the view of this video, the flows from Kansas on the South Fork remained at zero throughout this time period. Finally, the last reach of the Republican River before the Stratton gauge stretches over about 18 river miles from Benkelman, flowing from the southwest to the northeast. A few minor tributaries in the community of Max, Nebraska are found within this reach. Downstream at the Stratton gauge, the Republican River flow is measured for a final time before flowing into Swanson Lake. On the date of these photos, May 31st, 2013, the river flow was gauged at 83 cubic feet per second. After the Stratton gauge, it's only about a 5-mile stretch to Swanson Lake, the final destination of this virtual river tour. Swanson Lake, formed by the impoundment of river water at Trenton Dam, is owned and operated by the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, and also serves as a water source for portions of the Frenchman-Cambridge Irrigation District in Nebraska. This last segment of the Republican River after the Stratton Gauge starts in a fairly narrow and defined channel, but becomes wider and more braided as the backwater effects from the reservoir begin to come into play. From the headwaters of Rock Creek to the broadwaters of Swanson Lake, this portion of the Republican River Basin represents a crucial part of southwest Nebraska and has important implications to compact compliance, the regional economy, fish and wildlife habitat, and many other important features. Now, with the addition of the Rock Creek Augmentation Project, the tools afforded by this wetwater venture offer new opportunities for wise and careful management of water.